Hi there, Stampers. This is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. Welcome to today's live. Today we're going to be doing a card fold we've done before. It's this triple pop-up, only this time, last time I used the Lily of the Valley, and this time I'm using the Service Essentials. But the inside mechanism is the same. It's a pop-up, and it got quite a bit of response last time. And I made a few little flubs in the videos, and there's too much time coloring, so we didn't want to put it in book 5 that way. So we are cleaning it up, hopefully, and we're going to do it today. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, what we're going to need is we're going to start out with a standard card base. So I have 8.5 by 5.5 scored at 4 1/4, and we're just going to fold that over and burnish that score line. And I always match up the ends, and then I fold it into the flat edges. So it's easiest if you put it on the trimmer and then you kind of arc that and then press down, because you may be off just a titch, that these aren't exactly flush, and so butting it up to there will help. Okay, we're also going to need a piece of basic, there goes my trimmer. We're going to need a piece of basic white for the front that is 4 by 5 1/4. So there's that. I'm going to bring in a scrap of Night of Navy that we're going to use to create this kind of flag on the top. So I want something that's at least that wide. Okay, that looks like that will work. So I'll need that. And then on the inside, gosh, I need to stop moving. This chair is squeaky. Inside, I need 2 pieces of Misty Moonlight, because this bundle doesn't really have designer series paper that coordinates with it. I wish it did. If we had military paper, that would be amazing. But 5 1/4 by 4, and I'm going to use 2, and then we're just going to stamp our own designer series paper out of it. And then we're going to need 2 little mechanisms. So there's one. Oh, and we're going to need a 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 square. Sorry, I had these cut out and they're in an envelope somewhere here on my desk. Could not figure out where, and I figured it would just be faster to just cut it out again. Okay, the other piece needs to be 1 by 4. So and then we're going to score this at 2 inches. And then I'm going to make a mark at 1 inch. Now the gal I got it from, I said in the last video that she had scored all the way down and then said, don't fold that score line. I was not comfortable with that, because once there's a score line, I want to fold it. So I'm not going to put that there. And I'm just going to take my ruler and I put the score line at the 2 inch. I have a little mark at 1 inch. I don't know if you can see that. There's a teensy tiny mark right here. And then I'm going to line up my ruler from that mark to the corner. And then I'm going to score that. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to go from the corner to that mark and score. Okay. So I want this one to come up and be flush with the top. So again, before I really burnish that hard, I'm going to make sure I'm flush up here, and then go ahead and fold that. And then I'm going to do something kind of similar over here. Come on. This one I want to be flush this way. I want it to go straight across my score line. So we're flush with that. Okay. So what I have is a V in the middle and then a 2-inch mark. So they came down and met in the middle at 1 inch. And this is at 2 inch. We're going to take that 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 that could be designer series paper. And I'm going to cut that down the middle. And because it's got corners, I don't want to smash them. So I'm going to drop my blade in the middle and go up and go down. And then I'm going to flush this. It's probably easier if I use the little legs up here to keep that steady. Okay, and we're going to use these to decorate. Okay, so this one will go here, and then this one will go here. So it could be designer series paper, or I'm just using a coordinating cardstock. Okay, so that's all the pieces that we need to put this card together. Oh, other than some red stripes, huh? Let me grab some real red. Okay, and then I want them to be 3/8 of an inch. So this is a 1/4 and this is a 1/2. So I'm going to come right in between the two of them for my 3/8 of an inch. And I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so for our flag, what we're going to do is take that layer of basic white, and then I'm going to be gluing these down. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit of liquid glue. You don't need much. It sticks really well. I'm going to start at the bottom and flush it with the bottom and the edge. So that's going to be the first one. Everybody's saying it's hot. I don't know what is going on, but it is hot, hot, hot out there. And then over here, we're in Idaho right now, and it is very smoky. And I hear that's coming from Oregon. So I guess there's wildfires all over the place in the US, which is kind of scary with all of this heat going on. Stormy in northern Indiana. As long as it doesn't flood. It's like Mother Nature has this thing of, you know, too much or not enough, which I just did too much glue. So I'm going to mount the other one on it and share the wealth. And now I have 2 pieces. So I'm going to use this one that is not glued down as a guide for laying down my next one. Number 1, so that I'm straight, and number 2, so I'm evenly spaced. Okay, so I'm going to take that loose one, and again, I'm going to move it over. And then I'm going to butt up against it and against the bottom. Lift it up and move it over. So that's how we're getting our stripes perfectly straight. Yeah, anybody who's a demonstrator, please go to the sandbox or suggestion box, whatever they're calling it nowadays, and suggest they get some military paper, especially with everything going on in the world nowadays. We need to be appreciative of those people that are going out there and risking their lives for us. Oops. So military paper would be wonderful. I did use something about a walk. I just dropped the Nature's Walk. Was a pack of designer series paper that had kind of a military fatigue look to it. I did use that with this set once. Okay. Now this one, I guess I have to make a decision because it makes the last stripe a little bit narrow. I'm going to kind of split the difference and let it be a little narrow, but not totally. And then I will just trim off from the back when the glue dries. And then for that blue part, what I want to do is I want to start at that corner. It's just one piece. Come on. I want it to tear, but I don't want it to be super bad. Okay. Okay. So here we go. So here is our section we can use here. And again, I can decide, you know, if I want to cut a little bit off over here or make it go totally to the edge. That's kind of all up in the air and deciding what you want to do. I'm getting the rough edge here because as I tore it, I tore towards myself. And so that gives me this rough edge. If I had gone the other way, you get this edge, which is a little cleaner, but I was going for the rough edge on this one. And then I'm going to just glue it down over the stripes. Nobody's going to know those are back there. I mean, you know, the excess stripes. It will all blend in just fine. Again, kind of making sure that I am lined up, and then I'm going to trim off that excess. And from the back here, it's going to be nice and easy to do because of the color difference. Makes it really easy. Then I have some of the stars that I cut out using the dies that come with this bundle. And when I'm putting on something like this, I love to use our mini glue dots. It makes it so quick and easy to just line them all up and then peel them off like they're stickers. Okay, so I'm just going to take a couple of the stars and arrange them just kind of randomly around the blue. Okay, and that's 5. I kind of like odd numbers for these kind of things. And then that's the front of my card. So pretty easy so far, right? But the fun part is the inside. So let's get to that. Like I said, if I had some designer series paper, we would use that on the inside. But since I don't, we're going to take a couple pieces of the Misty Moonlight, and then we're going to grab the stamp that is the star out of this bundle, and some Misty Moonlight ink. And we're going to just stamp all over. Now, a lot of people I see kind of start, you know, at the top or from a corner. The best way to stamp randomly on something like this is to actually start in the center, because you can always leave yourself enough room in order to do the next one and not have to worry that you're going to run out of space, because it's okay to let it hang off the edge. And when we are just randomly stamping around, we can just do that. Now, if I had kind of started from the outside and then was working my way towards the middle, there may not be enough room to stamp that last star because, you know, I ran out of area. But by starting in the middle and working outward, I never run out of area. Does that make sense? And you can do this with any number of stamp sets. I've seen some beautiful designer series paper, you know, created our own designer series paper by doing this stamping with flowers or hearts or any number of things. If you don't have a designer series paper that will work with your project, don't be afraid to just take a piece of white or even some color and create your own. Okay. So because this has a tendency to stain a little, I'm going to go ahead and clean it right away. Also because I'm going to use it for some red. But I'm going to take these two pieces and we're going to glue them on the inside of our card. There we go. Now this piece I want to use as kind of a little box. So I'm going to fold on all these little edges, these little score lines. And again, this was 1 inch by 8.5, scored at 1 inch, 3 3/4, 4 3/4, and 7.5. And then I'm going to glue the two 1 inch ends together. So it's going to give us this rectangle. Does my desk seem too bright? I've had people tell me that my lights are dark, and so I lightened it up, but now I feel like we're getting a glare. Guess it depends on what's on my desk, huh? Okay. So there's our little rectangle, and it's going to fold both directions because we wanted to open and close our card like this. Okay. And then we're going to decorate this one. Again, I'm going to use liquid glue so I have a little bit of wiggle time. Now we need our little pop-ups. So I'm going to need some Night of Navy and some basic white that are going to be the squares that will pop up. So let me grab that. I'm probably going to turn off the camera when I'm done and immediately find that envelope with all my pre-cut pieces. What do you bet? Okay, so I have 3 pieces that are 2.5 by 2.5, and 3 pieces that are 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. Okay, I'm going to take one of my 2 3/4 ones, and I'm going to kind of use it as a guide because I want this to be in the middle, but right above where this goes. So I'm looking at 2 things. I'm looking at the point here on my score line. So the little point of my triangle is going to go right in that score line. And then I want this edge of my square to be right in line with this score line. So point in the thing and the edge here. And then I'm going to leave just a titch of room, like just enough for a score line to fit in there, because I don't want them to hit each other, but I want them to line up. So I'm going to kind of make a little mark here that's where I want my point to be. And then we're going to put some glue on this little flap, and it's going to bend backwards. So I'm going to take that point and we're going to line it up there like this. Okay, so it's going to go right along the edge, straight down that score line. But then when it bends, it's going to go across and, come on, be right there. Okay, so I've got this edge is going to line up there, and this is lining up here. Okay, have I lost anybody? Are you still with me? That's pretty funny. I do stuff like that. That's something I would totally do. I'm always finding like the backs to dimensionals stuck all over something I have. I think we all have little funny stories like that. Okay, so see how I have that? Okay, now I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to take the area that we glued together, and that's going to go right there on the back. That was one of the goofs I did on my other video, was I glued it on the front, and it actually needs to be on the back. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on that square. And then we're going to flush that with the edge on the bottom. this way. Sorry. Okay, so it's not on the 1-inch square. The 1-inch square is in the back. So we're doing it to the bottom of one of these little sections, and then that 1-inch square is gluing to that. Can you see how that's working? Because what, oops, gotta let the glue dry. Now I'm going to take my next one and I'm going to glue it right here. So it's going to go up to the score line and down here. Okay, so I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to go across and up. And then I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to align it right above the other one. And it kind of flushes with that edge, with that little bitty gap in the middle, and then almost flush with the top. Then our last square is going to go up here. So I'm going to put some adhesive on this 1-inch square. I'm going to leave a teensy gap, just the width of that score line that's there, and then glue that down. So there's our 3 pop-ups. Let's do a little bit of stamping. Okay, I've got our 3 sentiments that will pop up. And then I put a red star in the corners just to give it some red, white, and blue. I thought it needed a little more red. So I need a real red ink pad. And then I'm going to stamp our sentiments in Night of Navy. And let's go ahead and do those first. So that I know how much room the sentiment needs. Okay, and then I have his dog tags already cut out. Let's see. Okay, and you'll notice that I did my die cutting before I did the stamping, and that was on purpose. There we go. Okay, so I kept the little outline, and I'm going to bring in my stamp positioner, and I'm going to put this little thing down on the magnet with the magnets. And it doesn't kind of really matter where it goes, it just needs to be stationary. And then I'm going to take my stamp of that chain and I'm going to set it down into the hole. And so this allows me to wiggle it around and be sure that I'm centered and exactly where I want to be. And I'm going to pick that up carefully, not moving everything. And then I'm going to take the little part that I die cut and I'm going to set it right back into that hole. Come on, I just had it. Here we go. And then I'm going to ink up my chain. And stamp down, and it should give me a perfect placement. Okay, then I want it to go on the back, so I'm going to cut it right here, and then I'm going to feed that through the hole, so it will be my chain. And then I'm going to stamp this one. And obviously my thing moved. I apologize. I probably should use washi tape or something to hold it down. The technique does work. I promise it does. Just not when I'm on camera. Okay. So I'm going to take and glue these two together, matching up the holes, and then put a little bit of adhesive on the back. Run one of these through the hole. And then they're ready to stick over here. And there we go. There is our card with our middle pop-up. So I hope you like today's card. This one was one of the more difficult ones. I don't want to say difficult, but you know what I mean. So Thursday, we're going to go back to something simple, more of a beginner fun fold. And we're going to do this one, which is super easy and is great for one of those of you want to create like a whole bunch of something and assembly line it. This could be a great layout for a Christmas card where you need to make a bunch of them, but you want them to be a little different. So thank you for everyone for being here and hanging out with me while we made this really fun fold card that will be in book 5 of my fun fold tutorials. I'm gonna go back and add more glue to that. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here and liking and sharing and commenting and all of those good things. It's all great for the algorithm. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. See you on Thursday. Bye.